That are the previous four chairs of the Wayne County Commission. So last year in order, we recognized the late Jewel Ware and Chairman Art Blackwell. And now it is time that we recognize the next two in order, the late Ed Boike and Chairman Gary Woronchak. Give them a hand. Chairman Boike served on the Wayne County Commission for 20 years. He served with my mom, he served with me. I shouldn't tell him all his business, but he was such a force and a steady hand on the Wayne County Commission. He served as our 9th chairperson. And then we have the honor of Gary Woronchak, who I served as his vice chair for 8 years, as he served as chair. He also served in the state legislature. And again, we were so happy to have him with all the experience that he brought from his state experience down here to the commission experience. We have certainly had wonderful leaders lead the Wayne County Commission, and we have to make sure that we acknowledge that for all the world to see. So we had the 2 portrait unveiling last year, and we'll have the 2 today. And I'm just so happy that we have so many of the family members and friends of both Chair Boike and Chair Woronchak here today. And we also have joining us some of our special friends who are our former Wayne County commissioners. And if I could ask former commissioners in the audience, if you could please stand and be recognized. We have Joan Gebhardt, Keith Williams, Phil Kavanaugh, Joe Barone, Laura Cox, and Shannon Price. Let's give them a hand for the service that they gave to the Wayne County Commission for many, many years. Thank you all so much. It is so wonderful to see you. It's like a homecoming. And it is October, so that's fitting, this homecoming. And then we also have a special guest as our former acting clerk of the Wayne County Commission drove all the way in from Chicago, Mr. John Pfeiffer. John, stand up, sir. John? Oh, he just missed his big introduction. He stepped out. But John, he served us so well that he had a bigger and better opportunity in Chicago that he took. But he thought this was so important to celebrate Chairman Boike and Chairman Woronchak that he drove from Chicago, and he'll be driving back today after the ceremony. So we're thankful to John for his efforts and for all that he did for the Wayne County Commission. And again, as we go forward, we have a lot of special guests here, but in order to kick off this program, it would be so appropriate to start with our current Wayne County Executive, Mr. Warren Evans, as he reflects on working with both Gary and Ed over the years. So CEO Warren Evans, come on up, sir. All right. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Well, Madam Chair, one thing I can reflect on is all except for you, we're getting older. It is an honor to be here, and it's an honor to reflect on those people who gave tremendous service to Wayne County, our former chairs, both Ed Boike and his family, and Gary Woronchak, and I think his wife Vivian is out there somewhere. His daughter Diana is out there somewhere. We know we have Todd Boike. History is important, and being able to reflect on the county's history is significantly important. I kind of see that when I talk to my staff who have been here maybe a year or 2 years, and it becomes evident when they're pulling stuff together that the history of Wayne County hasn't quite seeped in yet. I mean, I'm not knocking them, it's just you don't know what you don't know. But one of the ways to know is to be able to see and appreciate the leadership that's been around here for a long, long time. Both Ed Boike and Gary Woronchak are people I've had the opportunity to work closely with, and it's been an honor. I'm here specifically to talk about Gary Woronchak, who, and I don't know if you know this about, but he had dual careers, as many people did. He spent 25 years in the journalistic newspaper business, and spent almost all of his working life in Dearborn. I think he might have stepped away from Dearborn for a year and a half or something with the Royal Oak paper. But Dearborn Press and Guide for at least 20 years was a real passion of his. And obviously politics has been a passion. He graduated from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. I think his degree was in political science, if I remember correctly. He certainly was a politically astute person. And we're kind of historically joined at the hip because as leaders of our respective branch of county government, we went through one of the toughest periods or times in Wayne County's history, at least recent history, both ethically and financially. And while our politics are often very, very different, the connection with making sure we did the best we could do for citizens of Wayne County and putting politics aside to try to get us through some tough times or something I will never forget. And it was a pleasure to work with Gary through the process. We were, on the verge of bankruptcy, as most of you know. And in order for us to find a plan out of it, we needed a consent agreement with the state of Michigan, and we needed all the players to be involved. And key players are obviously the Wayne County Commission and the exec's office. And we had a number of meetings and discussions about how to structure that, first of all, to gain the support of the commission to be able to do it, but also Gary's desire to make sure that the commission played its rightful role in that consent agreement. And that was something that he strongly advocated for and got, not just because he advocated for it, but that certainly had a lot to do with it. I mean, he was not going to give up the commission's authority to do what the commission needed to do under any circumstance. And with history being what it is, we didn't spend but about a year or 18 months under the consent agreement, and we got out of it. And the county has grown since then from a junk bond status credit rating to AAA, which we currently have today. We've had at least 10 years of balanced budgets and surpluses. And that doesn't happen because the county executive says it's going to happen. It happens because we all work together and get it done. We're not always on the same page about everything. But one thing that I really know about Gary is he's going to put business first. And he's going to do what he thinks is right. And that's just extremely important. There's no question about how in love with Dearborn he's always been. I mean, whatever it was, Dearborn was his baby. He never left it for anything. I think you probably still live there, don't you, Gary? Yeah. So really important. Was elected to the commission in 2005 and was a commissioner till 2018. Our period of leadership together was about 2015 through 2018. And seems like a short period of time, but boy, it didn't seem like it at the time, did it, Gary? I will always appreciate our ability to work together there. And I think you did a great job of shepherding the commission through that period of time. A lot of you might not know this about Gary. I really didn't know it that back when he and I were working together, but he's also a wrestling guy. Look at him. I mean, anybody, he really was a wrestling promoter. And it all seems to fit for me now because there were several times he tried to pin me really significantly back in the day. I just thought that's an interesting part. I would not have looked at Gary and said, oh, this guy looks like a wrestling promoter. He's always been good at what he does. He's done a lot of things, and I frankly think he still has some gas left in the tank for public service work, whatever it might be. And I wish you the best, Gary, for whatever it is, you choose to do going forward. I think it's been wonderful. You're being the editor of the Dearborn Press and Guide. I mentioned before that you had been the editor, but you also won two awards as the editor in terms of the best weekly newspaper in the state of Michigan. So, I mean, he's successful at what he does. He brings people together and he fights fairly, but he fights hard. I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words here, Gary, and hopefully in 20 years from now, we'll be thinking about being joined at the hip, still smiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Executive, again for your leadership and for being with us today. Your time with Gary, as you said, it was some trying times, but you all working together got the county through it. So thank you for being here today. And I do not have my glasses on, so I can't see far away. So I neglected to recognize, in the last 30, 40 years of being a charter county, we've had 4 county executives, Mr. Lucas, Mr. McNamara, and our 3rd county executive, Mr. Robert Ficano, who is here with us today as well. Mr. Ficano, if you could please stand. Thank you for being with us today, and a short story on that. In 2003, when we were both sworn in, he is county executive and my first term as county commissioner, he had the great idea for us to stand outside in January to get sworn in. It was a wonderful day, but it certainly was cold outside. But thank you, Mr. Ficano, for being here and joining this celebration with us today. Next, we're going to have some reflections by Taylor Mayor, Mr. Tim Woolley. Tim, if you could come up and give some reflections on our great beloved Ed Boike.
First, I want to thank everybody for having me here today. I think it's a great event. I want to thank Mrs. Boike, Mark, Beth, and Todd for inviting me to come down here and speak on behalf of Taylor and Mr. Boike. Starting out as a young kid growing up in Taylor, the one thing I've always loved about my community is everybody seems to know each other. There's a lot of people that live in the city of Taylor, but somehow, some way, everybody seems to know each other. I first remember, my first memory of Mr. Boike is basically, he was the guy that ran our community center. He ran what is named the Sheridan Center, had ice rinks in it, and back then, now it's an outdoor auditorium basically. But I remember him running that. And then the next thing I remember is Mr. Boike had like a talk show on our local cable TV show, back in the 80s. And I remember just flicking through the channels and seeing like, wow, this is pretty cool. He's got his own TV show. So I didn't really know him when I was young. My relationship began with him more through our Little League. Everybody knows Taylor is a very Little League baseball oriented city. We did win the Little League World Series 2 years ago, as I'd like to point out. Yeah. But through that is where I really got to know Ed. I knew Beth and Todd through high school. Marker's old, so I didn't go to school with him. So, but through the Little League is where I really got to meet and know Mr. Boike. Him and Lanny Hall. Lanny Hall was the president of our Little League. They worked together for many, many years. I remember Lanny and Ed arguing about who was going to drive downtown the next morning and who was going to pick who up. So it was always a great thing. But I think my fondest memories of Mr. Boike is just him sitting out in the left field of the major field, watching his grandkids play. They all referred to him as Papa. And the great thing about it is now in that left field fence of the major field, there's a nice, beautiful scoreboard that adorns his name. So I think that's a great honor. It's actually pretty much where he used to sit and watch the baseball games. And I've got nothing but fond memories of Mr. Boike. So I'm happy to be here to speak on his behalf and the family. And he is very well, we miss him a lot. And I miss his smile. He always had a great smile, a great laugh. But again, I think this is a great honor, and thank you for recognizing such a great man that was such a big part of the history in Taylor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate you being able to come in and give those reflections on Ed Boike and that scoreboard. I know he's smiling down looking at that and so proud to have that with his name on it. Next, we'll have Mr. Alan Hemkamp to come in and give a few words on Gary Woronchak.
Good afternoon. I want to acknowledge Ed Boike's family and friends who are here. I worked with Ed too for some years and had a great relationship, and I miss him. As to Gary, I have to tell you that Joey Palomero and I flipped a coin. I lost, so he has some of the more juicier tidbits that might be shared with you today. But as for me, I want to start, particularly for those who were not here back in those years, with a little bit of inside baseball. It was nearing the end of 2013. There was a new CEO administration coming in. Gary reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in joining the county commission and coming into his office. I might say it was a somewhat controversial move. I was an assistant county executive in Bob Ficano's administration. Good to see you, Bob. And part of my duties included being the liaison for the CEO's office to this body. I sat for 12 years in the seats now shared by Eddie and Darcel. And it was my job to advocate on behalf of the county executive branch. And so the prospect of me coming here was met with some, maybe not suspicion, but there was some concern on behalf of some staff. And as Terry Marecki and maybe a couple others know, our new CEO warmly embraced the notion of my joining Gary's office. Where that was supposed to be just an inside joke for my buddy Warren and I, but it's been all good for many years. But Gary stuck to his guns and I came to the county commission, and I've always appreciated that in the 4 years that we worked together. And as Warren mentioned, those were very tough times. We were in that financial emergency, but with the leadership of Warren's administration and in partnership with the commission. And I'm so glad to see so many of our former colleagues here today who also should be given a lot of credit along with Gary and Warren for helping us through those very tough years. It took long hours and hard work. Vivian and Gary's family shared him with the county and us much more than should have been required. And we appreciate the sacrifice which the family made back in those years. I can tell you that Gary was a gem to work with. I say with and not really for, because given our many years of working together, our relationship was really more collegial than anything else. But I learned that Gary didn't really need much of my assistance, particularly in the written sphere. I consider myself a pretty good writer, but Gary generally penned all of his own stuff. You've heard about him being a former newspaper editor and journalist. Gary was and is a great wordsmith. I'm going to close with the observation that Gary was extremely dedicated to the county commission, to the legislative branch of county government. He understood what checks and balances were, and he fulfilled that duty and his responsibility to the people of this county in an exemplary fashion. But we had some fun along the way in discharging those duties. So I just want to say that this honor is very well deserved, and I congratulate my good buddy Gary and his family and wish them well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. With Alan stating that he went from the executive's office to the commission office, that just states how we're all one Wayne County. No matter if you're on the executive side or the commission side or the judicial branch, we're all one Wayne County. And we can flip between the different branches of government seamlessly to work for the people of Wayne County. So thank you, Alan, for those words. Next, we will have Commissioner Vice Chair Pro Tem Sam Baydoun. Come on up, Sam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I begin my remarks, let me first welcome our city clerk from the great city of Dearborn, George Deraney, who's here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's truly an honor to be here today as we gather to celebrate the remarkable contributions of my good friend and my predecessor on the Wayne County Commission, the Honorable Gary Woronchak. Gary has been a dedicated public servant of my hometown of Dearborn and Wayne County, where he has contributed so much to Wayne County and Michigan's progress. Gary's journey in public service began as a state representative, where he demonstrated his commitment to inclusivity and diversity. He authored the Halal Food Act, which stands as a testament to his commitment to diverse communities by ensuring that the rights and needs of all of our citizens are recognized. This landmark legislation marked the first reference to Islam in Michigan law and is a reflection to his deep commitment to embracing our diverse community. So anytime you walk into a restaurant, you see the sign halal food, it's because of Gary. Thank you, Gary. One of Gary's enduring legacies is the initiation of the annual senior conference in the city of Dearborn, a tradition I am proud to continue. And this past May, I hosted the 21st senior conference. This event has provided valuable resources and support to our senior community, which was started because of Gary's commitment to improving the quality of life for all residents. Gary's dedication to securing funding for Dearborn has had a profound impact on our city. Through his tireless efforts, he secured millions of dollars for vital projects, including parks and recreation enhancements, critical infrastructure updates, and essential public health initiatives, including at Access. These investments have improved the well-being of countless individuals and families in our community. As we all know how the saying goes, behind every great man is a great woman. I would like to take a moment to honor his loving and supportive wife, Vivian. Vivian has been the backbone of Gary's success, and we thank her from the bottom of our hearts for her efforts and for sharing Gary with us. As we unveil this portrait today, I am reminded of Gary's legacy of inclusive leadership, legislative accomplishments, and commitment to our community. Gary, as my predecessor, you have not only been a dedicated public servant, but also a cherished friend and a mentor. Your guidance and wisdom have been invaluable to me, and I have had the privilege to continue to learn from your work. Your commitment to our community is a testament to the kind of person you are. You are compassionate, dedicated, and always willing to lend a helping hand. It's an honor to follow in your footsteps, and I couldn't have asked for a better role model. Thank you for your friendship and unwavering support, and thank you for all years of service to Dearborn, Wayne County, and the state of Michigan. You have served us well, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Pro Tem Baydoun. I would like to, at this time, acknowledge staff who are here that served under Chairman Boike and Chairman Woronchak. There are a few in the audience. If you could please stand. I see Dwayne Seals, who was our fiscal advisor. Hello, how are you? Good to see you, Dwayne. I see Sandy. So good to have Sandy here served with Commissioner Boike. And then, let's see, no, I can't see now. Is that Orlando? Who's that back there? That's not Orlando. Orlando's over there. And then is that Will in the back? Hello, Will. Will, sidebar, is one of our longest serving staffers with 28 years. 25 years with the Wayne County Auditor General's Office. So he served under both Chairman Boike and Chairman Woronchak. Thank you all for being here today. And of course, Pfeiffer was here. I don't know if he's back. Well, I gave you a good introduction when you missed it, Pfeiffer. So again, thank you for being here. At this time, I would like to bring forward Vice Chair Joey Palomero.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chairman, it's great to see you and Vivian and your family here and all our former colleagues. Once again, sitting back there in the troublemaker caucus. It is great to see all of you. Before I talk a little bit about Gary, I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Boike and her family. I served 12 years with Eddie, and there was no finer gentleman than Ed Boike. Ed and I both worked in Parks and Recreation before we got involved in politics and elected government service. And both being from downriver, we shared many similar interests, including baseball and sports. And it's with deepest gratitude for having had the privilege of serving with Ed that I extend my best wishes to all of you on this well-deserved honor. You should be very proud of everything that Ed Boike stood for. As for Chairman Woronchak, it is not hyperbole to say Gary is a unicorn. He is unique. He is the only person in the history of our country that has all six of them, all those credentials on his resume in order. And I'm glad Warren talked about it. He was a newspaper man, a pro wrestling, or as my grandma would say, a wrestling promoter, a Republican state representative, a Republican county commissioner, a Democratic county commissioner, and last but not least, chairman of the Wayne County Commission, a county whose population is larger than that of 12 states. And when you think about Gary Woronchak, he is an amalgamation of that chiseled six-pack of former jobs. And it's brought us here together today to honor him in this very cool revealing of his portrait. As I said, I'm glad Warren talked about the newspaper stuff, and I'm not going to talk about all six, but there is one part of his resume that I just cannot ignore. And that, of course, is when he was a pro wrestling promoter. I really didn't believe it either until I saw the video that Jim Toth has. And it's, I think, from the 90s. And in the video I saw, Gary is dressed in a very nice suit, a lot like the one he's got on today. But he had lost control of everything that was going on up in the ring. What a shock. And he went up there and says, what's going on here is highly irregular. Before he got thrown into the ring, tossed around like a rag doll and stomped on, before Dick the Bruiser scraped him off the mat. And it was great training for the commission. Because years later, in this room, Gary hosted a friend of his, one of his wrestlers, Terry Guerin, also known as Rhino. And in the chamber that day was a gentleman by the name of Ross Jones. You may have heard of him, an investigative reporter with Channel 7. Well, they all tried to get on the elevator together. Well, I guess Ross was a little more confrontational. And I'll just say it went down like this. Ross was trying to do his job. Gary was trying to do his job, and Rhino did his job. There was no interview. In the only time, and I'm going to end with this, but I can't pass on this, especially when I saw Laura Cox here today. The only other time Gary mentioned wrestling was during the Republican presidential debate of 2015, the one where Trump was on stage and calling everybody by nicknames that they did not want. Lion Ted and Little Marco, Low Energy Jeb. Well, Gary had it, and he texted Laura and I that night. Pro wrestling is real. It's politics that's fake. Gary, in late summer of 2005, Gary came into my office in the old county building, and they were small offices, and he shut the door and he just got right to the point. He says, I really like to change parties and become a Democrat. I'm more in line with that way of thinking, and I'd like your support and advice. I mean, it caught me totally off guard. I said, Gary, that's great. I'm all in. The first thing you got to do is go see John Dingell. And before I could get another word in, Gary threw his hands up in a double stop sign and said, hold on there, Joe Rodeo. You're not the first person I'm telling this to. I already talked to John Dingell. I said, well, great. I said, you're good to go then. And let's go get him. Now, it's one thing to change parties and get elected. That in and of itself is a great feat, but it's a whole other deal to build up enough trust in 7 years here to have a former Republican get elected chair of this body, the democratically dominated Wayne County Commission.
That kind of thing just doesn't happen, folks, not in Wayne County. His path to the chairmanship will never be duplicated in both what he did do and what he didn't do that got him elected to be chairman of this body. What Gary didn't do was he never ran around here demanding respect from anybody. But by the way he conducted himself with sincerity and honesty and integrity, Gary Woronchak earned respect from everybody. So, Mr. Chairman, as you take your rightful place on the walls with other legends right outside this magnificent chamber in this iconic building, please know that during some of the most challenging times in our county's history, your solid leadership helped us all get through those times. And that fact is well known, well documented, and indisputable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your common man approach and your common sense touch in leading this fantastic body of the Wayne County Commission for so many distinguished years. Congratulations, my friend.
Well, I cannot say that Joey's new name is going to be Joe Rodeo. So you should have said that, Joey. So now you're Joe Rodeo. If we could have the families of both Ed Boike and Gary Woronchak to stand just to be recognized. The families could stand, please. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we're going to have words from Chairman Woronchak and the family of Chairman Boike, but I just want everyone to see the overwhelming support of their families that are here with us today. I would just leave, before we go into our honorary remarks, let me just say I remember Commissioner Chairman Boike assigning me to be the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, and I was so honored to do so and to lead that committee for a number of years. Funny story, I did something. I had a hearing that he didn't really approve of and had some folks come down, and I remember him saying, Bill, did I tell you to do that? Why'd you do that? But he understood it was for the people, and he understood that sometimes you got to step a little bit to the left to get things done, and I always respected him for that and loved the fact that he served with myself and my mother, which was also an honor, and she wished she could have been here today, but she sends her love to the family. She loves serving with Ed, and I love serving under him as chairman. And then, of course, Gary Woronchak, I was honored that he asked me to be the vice chair under his leadership as chairman. And for 8 years, he served as chair. And for 8 years, I never did a meeting or went over a meeting because he was never absent. For 8 years, I sat there waiting. One day I'm going to preside over commission meeting as vice chair. One day I'm going to preside. That one day never came until I actually became the chair, because Gary was dedicated, devoted, and was here for every commission meeting for an entire 8 years. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being here and showing me through your leadership what a chairman looks like and how wonderful a chairman could be. A couple of remarks, I'm going off script a little bit now. I know Commissioner Ray Basham is here. Wanted to say a word. Commissioner Basham, of course, you took the spot over in the Taylor District after our dear Ed Boike. If you could just give a word, please.
Yes, I didn't replace Ed Boike. I took the job after Ed Boike. And Ed's lovely wife and I were the ones that actually were at the dedication. We got the county funding to do the scoreboard where they would set for the meetings. And one thing that was never talked about here is Ed liked horses. And I'm getting some nod, yes. And I even went to Ed's funeral, unfortunately. And his pallbearers were actually horses. And he was a gentleman who loved horses all the time. And he was from a community. He actually interviewed me when I didn't know how to speak in front of a camera. I just happened to be elected to the State House. And I was on his talk show that he did, Ed Boike did in Taylor. And so I I got that video someplace. He was a leader in Taylor and also a leader for Wayne County. And I have nothing but good stuff to say or think about Ed Boike's family, because nothing is done by yourself. If you don't have your wife's support and your family support, you don't get anything done. So I would just like to acknowledge the better half. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for those words. Like, again, big family. So thank you all for being here today. Is there anyone else in the audience, maybe a former colleague, who would like to give a 1-minute word before we go into our honorees? Going once. Oh, come on up, sir. And you can speak from there.
There it is. I am Doug Geis, Chairman of the Taylor City Council. Wanted to acknowledge that 45 years ago, Ed Boike challenged my dad, who was the chairman of the Taylor City Council, and became the chairman of the Taylor City Council. And after my dad losing that election and serving on the Wayne County Charter Commission, I saw the picture in the back, that set up the Home Rule Charter. It just reminded me of the fact that we are all interconnected. As you mentioned, we are one Wayne County, and certainly wanted to give props to Ed Boike for serving on this commission 50% of the time that it has been in service. And he served with diligence, he served with compassion, and really never chose to be the chairman. It was the circumstances that led for him to lead this commission. So what I wanted to say to the commission is, you've already honored Ed in our community. This commission approved the scoreboard at Taylor Northwest Little League that honors him. And it is in the position in the area where he truly was in his element, which was watching his children, his grandchildren play baseball. So to the commission, thank you. And this is my first time before all of you. I've served with many of you in the past, but thank you for honoring Ed Boike.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Former Commissioner Joan Gebhardt.
Chair. My current commissioner right now is Commissioner Marecki, does an outstanding job. But I also want to honor two of the chairs that are being honored today because I served with both of them. The first one, Ed Boike, because with him, we moved to the Guardian Building, and that was not an easy feat. It was amazing, as a matter of fact, because we did it in the winter of all times. You talk about you're swearing in the winter. We moved in the winter. And with Chairman Woronchak, he appointed me to chair the Ethics Committee, the first Ethics Committee for Wayne County. That is still working right now. We've had a couple of revisions, but I'm proud to say that that ethics resolution is still in check. Thank you very much. And thank you, Gary, for all you've done for Wayne County, and to also the family of Ed Boike. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cox, so good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I had the pleasure of serving under both. Ed was a wonderful, steady hand. He had so much knowledge. Did serve when we did the move, which was very difficult. He had a great staff, and he was just, I learned so much from working with him. So it was really a pleasure. And he talked so much about his family. So it's wonderful to see you all here. Gary was with me, then he wasn't with me, but we still remain friends. And that says a lot about his character. He was just wonderful to work with, whatever, a D or an R. I just really, again, learned a lot. He was obviously a very steady hand, so much fun. would go into his office often to vent. And he would just say, I know, let's clear your head and let's move forward. He always found a way to make things happen. And I just really thoroughly enjoyed working with him as well. So congratulations. It's a wonderful time to have your families see how much you leave your legacy here with the county, a county that we all so much love and work so hard to make better. And so wonderful to see everybody here today. So congratulations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. One more before we go to our honorary remarks, if there is one more. Okay. All right. Thank you. So at this time, we will transition into our honorary remarks. First up to bat, Todd Boike, son of the Honorable Chairman Ed Boike. Come on up, Ed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Basham, thanks for getting me all teary-eyed right before we spoke. So thank you, but I am wearing my dad's shoes today. So the nice words you said were pretty great. What I do want to mention is that he would be very happy to be here today to, witness this, but the family is. Sometimes speakers forget that a dedication and a speech is not about them. It's a dedication speech about the honorees' achievements and their positive impact that they had. Now, I could stand up here and list all his political achievements. There's quite a bit. Now, I know he was commissioner. I had down 22 years. You said 20. So maybe there's 2 years. We don't know where he was. I don't know, or what he was doing. So with the dedication of the photo for my father and Gary, I think it's great. But I know the way he would want me to take is to mention the family. So I'd like to mention all the family members and some more community members that are out there that was part of my father's doings. Wife, my mom, Joyce Boike, was married to my father for 53 years. Children was son Mark, his wife Sarah is here, and his grandchildren they have are Colin, Allie, Blake, and Carson. His daughter Beth, my sister, Beth Hankey, with her husband Greg Hankey, and the grandchildren Josh Hankey and Samantha Hankey. His favorite child, myself, and my son Cole Boike is out there as well. Ed's sister Bonnie Marody, my aunt, is here today along with her husband Jess Marody. They have one daughter. It's Edward's niece, Sarah Johnson, whose husband is Steve Johnson as well. I don't believe he could make it today. My father had one sister-in-law on my sister's side, Joanne Conti, and one nephew, Chris Keene. The reason why I mentioned the family is he was so family orientated. 7 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, I believe it is. So the one thing he was happy about, if the grandkids could please stand up. So we have a few missing right now. 6 of those 7 all had pictures in the old building in his office with the flag. My son Cole was the only one, because of the move you guys talked about to the Guardian building, that got his picture taken here in this head. So I thought that was cool. I do want to mention my dad's assistant, Lanny Hall Sr., his wife, Mim, their 2 kids, Eric and Lanny Hall Jr. I'd like to thank Tim Woolley, Mayor of Taylor, for coming down here and speaking on behalf of my father. Doug Geis, City Council Chair, thank you for coming. My dad had 2 favorite people that he always talked about when I was at home, and those were his secretaries, Peggy Grow and Sandy Thompson, who I believe are out in the crowd as well. My dad was born in Detroit and grew up in Wyandotte and Dearborn Heights. He lived in Taylor also for 53 years. My mom still lives in Taylor. So this is truly an honor, and we'd like to thank everybody involved for the dedication and the ceremony. He would be super, super thankful as well, and congrats to Gary for all the work he put in as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd, for those words. And again, you were right on when you say family is everything. No one can do this job without the support of family. And to have the grandchildren here to see this is amazing. This is something that I'm sure they will remember for all of their lives. So thank you, Todd, for those words. And next, we will have our next honoree, the words from the man himself, Mr. Gary Woronchak, also known as wrestler promoter extraordinaire. Mr. Chairman Woronchak.
Wow. That was more than I expected. Thank you all. I was asked, even though I had my folder with me, I was asked, are you making a speech today? And I said, yes. And their response was, how long? My stock response is always 2. Nonetheless, I have to. Isn't that funny? I shut the thing off. Yay. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair Bell, without whose initiative this day would not have been possible. To our speakers, Warren Evans, your remarks and you just being here mean a lot to me because of the great respect I have for you as a leader, for the work you've done, the successes you've had and continue to have in Wayne County. It means a lot. Thank you. I did not expect you to be the first to mention my role as a professional wrestling promoter, which probably took some people by surprise, but to show you how weird the world is, the promotion that I own and ran some 30 years ago, that ran for 2 years, was run at the Sheridan Community Center in Taylor, where I had my first interactions with Ed Boike years before I would have served with him. So the world is small. Alan, thank you. Your remarks were wonderful, and one of the best things to come from my time on the commission was our friendship. Thank you. Sam Baydoun, thank you for your extremely kind words and your friendship. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Joey. You've been a friend and a mentor and sometimes a mediator since even before I was elected to the commission. You understood how hard it was to leave the legislature because of term limits. And I'll always remember how you told me the commission is a good place to take the skills and experience from Lansing and keep them working for my constituents. And you were right. Thank you for your friendship and through the years. Of course, I know family has been mentioned many times, but none of the good things in my life would have happened without the greatest thing to happen in my life. And last December, Vivian and I celebrated our 40-year anniversary, and I would like 40 more. Thank you. Our daughter, Diana. Did I shut? There we go. Our daughter, Diana, and son-in-law, Ryan, fill our hearts with love and pride always, and I'm really happy that they're here. George Duraney, Dearborn City Clerk, is here and has been one of my best friends for around 50 years since high school. I want to thank Bob Ficano for coming today. Bob was county executive when I was elected to the commission and was very supportive when I went through the aforementioned party change. Bob, you've always been good to me from the time we met. You're a good man and an honest man, and some of that may have gotten a bit lost in the shuffle as your time with the county came to an end. So let me say today to Bob Ficano, thank you for your years of service to Wayne County as sheriff and as county executive. Thank you for your friendship and thank you for being here today. Our former commissioners have been recognized. I'm certain that this would not have been the same without you being here. Thank you so much. And those who are not here are remembered today too. Some of the most memorable characters in politics of this area, Jewel Ware, Burton Leland, Kay Beard, and Ed Boike. These are people that I remember today and miss seeing in this room. Pointing out staff, if I start naming names, I'm going to get in big trouble because I'm going to leave people out inadvertently. But staff is everything to the Wayne County Commission, always has been. And I am so proud to see that much of the key staff that was here when I was here is still here serving you and serving you well. I have to thank Jim Toth for keeping me informed about this information, this event, and also for being one of my best friends for the last 40 plus years, Jim. And Joe Slezak reminded me that it was 35 years ago last week that I first hired him at the Dearborn Press and Guide. So small world. So happy to see John Pfeiffer. John, you're still in here, right? John, former acting clerk of the commission. You know, having been in supervisory roles for most of my career, I've had a lot of employees move on to bigger and better things, but it's never quite hit me as much as when John left the commission. John was anything you needed him to be at any time, so dedicated and just so special that he's here. I actually half joking, well, actually, I was joking when I saw him a little earlier and I said, we have 10 minutes. Can you do a report on the statistical, you know, and for a minute there, I thought he was going to jump on it. So thank you. Also, I want to recognize Rob Gurdon and Gerard Grisco, who run the Wayne County Employees Retirement System. Rob and Gerard, you still here, right? There you are. A funny story there. Rob and Gerard, who have done, by the way, outstanding work for the Wayne County Employees Retirement System. When I was first elected chair, I was told a couple of days later that I was now a member of the retirement board and had to attend meetings. And I said, I'm not going to any of those meetings. You never told me this. As it turned out, I attended the meetings, enjoyed them, became an active participant, and hopefully I served the retirement system well also. And I'll also apologize to anybody that I should have acknowledged but did not. I appreciate everybody being here. Obviously, this is a special day, one that I never thought was possible when I left the commission almost 5 years ago. Serving as chair of the Wayne County Commission was certainly one of the great highlights of my career, which spanned over 20 years as a newspaper editor and another 20 holding elected office. I was proud to have earned the trust of my fellow commissioners who chose me to lead the commission, and I was just as proud to have kept that trust for 4 terms. And in case you don't know it, people elected to public office can be a handful from time to time. So it's no small task to get a majority of a legislative body to agree on a leader from among their ranks. We did a lot of good work together, not just as commissioners, but in collaboration with the administration. I look back at some of the major definitive issues of my time as chairman. As some have been referenced, we navigated the controversy. Well, this one wasn't mentioned. It's funny. We navigated the controversies surrounding the jail project and worked with the administration to find a solution to what seemed like a bottomless pit of a problem. I should have stopped there on the way in to see how it's been operating for the last couple of years, but maybe I'll have a tour later. It was a joke, you know, it's not open yet, right? When the state and county negotiated a consent agreement to dig out of a declared financial emergency, I made sure the commission had a seat at the table and was a full partner. And in response to some ethical lapses that created a cloud over Wayne County government, we undertook the complicated process of creating an ethics ordinance and board of ethics. So I left the commission thinking we had accomplished a lot and had overcome the most significant challenges I could imagine. Surely we had survived the most difficult decade ever of Wayne County government. And then about 15 months after I left the commission, COVID had turned the world upside down. And Chairwoman Bell and the commission had to keep county government functioning and doing its legislative work while dealing with conditions we hadn't seen in our lifetimes. Meanwhile, you're all still doing it in an environment of political divisiveness that was unimaginable just a few years ago, even as things were starting to get dicey when I left the commission. You imagine, just a sidebar here, me changing parties from Democrat to, from Republican to Democrat back in 2005. Could you imagine? I'd be in hiding today. I mean, this, and somehow you're navigating that. So uncharted territory, not seen in our lifetimes is something that this commission has been dealing with too. My point is, and I'm figured I'd have one, right? Whomever is chair of the commission over whatever period of time is going to face unique challenges and difficulties. And if commissioners have chosen their chair wisely, they will meet those challenges successfully, as Jewel Ware and Ed Boike and others did before me, and as Alicia Bell continues to do today. It's my privilege to have led the Wayne County Commission during that portion of the county's long timeline, and it's humbling to have my portrait alongside all those others who have taken a turn at this crazy and wonderful job. Thank you all very much for being here to join me in enjoying this moment. Thank you.
Gary, don't sit down. Walk over to, and Todd, I don't know who else you want to ask, maybe your mom to come over. Or the entire family. Put them together. Who's going to assist here? Okay, so again, as we make sure we recognize the great leadership that we have at the Wayne County Commission, we are so proud to unveil the two portraits which would hang proudly in our hallways of the Commission chamber, the portraits of Chairman Ed Boike and Chairman Gary Woronchak. The photos, the portraits are very fitting of the leadership that they have given, not only the Wayne County Commission, but the County of Wayne. I would say I hope that they like the portraits, but they gave them to us, so I guess they like them. So we will proudly hang those, and this will forever be a part of Wayne County history as we make sure we recognize all of those that make sure that our county functions effectively and efficiently for years and years to come. So this does conclude our program. We have lunch in the back. Please feel free to have pictures with your families and the portraits, and give us about 5 minutes to get everything situated for lunch. Thank you all so much for coming. Again, thank the families. A wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you all. All right.